You're listening to the IAmAnEducationChampion podcast. Your future career starts here.
Hello and welcome to everyone who is either listening or watching the I Am an Education Champion podcast, the voice of the Rising Stars Career Expo. I'm looking forward to be with you every month, profiling successful individuals from various industries in order to assist you rising stars to make a wise career decision from an informed position. My name is Thulisa Mangcotywa, and I am your host. I am coming to you today live from SMT LABS in Bloemfontein, and here to listen to the voice of women in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, which is famously known as STEM. I am honored to welcome Maneo Moshabesha, a laboratory analyst and a team leader here at SMT LABS, and Dr. Shirleen Theisinger, the visionary managing director of SMT LABS with a PhD in environmental health and microbiology. Dr. Theisinger has spearheaded the establishment of multiple branches, including the one that we are coming you live from in Bloemfontein, where Maneo excels. Together, they bring a wealth of knowledge in microbiological testing and environmental health. Dr. Theisinger, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting us to your show. We are really excited.
Could you share your journey from academia with a PhD in environmental health and an MSc in microbiology to become now the managing director of this establishment, which is now called SMT LABS? And if you can also explain to us, what does SMT stands for, Dr. Theisinger?
Thank you for the opportunity to share my journey with you today. After school, I went and studied BSc microbiology. And after I completed my degree, I realized that I'm not really ready for the real adult life. So I decided to do my honors and master's degree. While I was busy with my master's degree, I had the opportunity to work in a food testing laboratory at the university in Bloemfontein. At that stage, there was no accredited food testing laboratories in the Free State. After my master's degree, I started looking for a career opportunities in Bloemfontein. Then I realized I only have 3 options in Bloemfontein. I can either be a teacher, do my PhD, or open the first accredited food testing laboratory in the Free State. So I decided to do the last 2. Yes, so that's basically my journey regarding how SMT started. SMT stands for Safety Micro Testing. That is what SMT stands.
From someone who was very skeptical about adulting to establishing a company which has many branches, not only in Bloemfontein, but in Johannesburg and Centurion. What inspired you, Dr. Theisinger, to open the Bloemfontein branch? And that was over a decade ago in 2013.
Yeah, I must be honest. All the praise must go to God. The journey of SMT have just been the one after the other big blessing. We opened the first laboratory in Bloemfontein because at that stage we were living in Bloemfontein. From the beginning, SMT focused on 3 core things: accurate results, knowledgeable technical signatures, as well as great turnaround time. And then food manufacturing companies from other provinces started to approach us. We were so blessed to open a second branch in Randburg, in Gauteng, and soon after that, we opened our first veterinary laboratory in Centurion. I can also say we are very excited to share that in the near future, we will open a branch in Cape Town as well. And with our cleaning efficacy hub in Bloemfontein, we will soon be the first South African accredited laboratory to test for sporicidal activity as well as virucidal activity against bacteriophages of chemical disinfectants used in the food industry. Thanks to my great team.
Wow. Those are great plans, Dr. Theisinger. And I feel like you are more of an entrepreneur than an academic. So how did you navigate the challenges of starting a business in this industry? Did you plan out that I'm going to be an entrepreneur and I'm going to stick with that route up until I see it to manifestation, as you said, that it is through God's grace that you have managed to experience such leaps and bounds of success in your business endeavors?
Yeah, no, I was definitely not planning to be an entrepreneur. I was planning to be a lab rat with my white coat, and just tasting food, microbiology for food, something to do in the mornings while I'm waiting for my kids to be at school. That was kind of what I thought SMT will be, some small business in Bloemfontein, just keeping me busy. But I must say, I love what I'm doing now. I would say my main focus now is managing people, problem solving, and making sure we keep on focusing on accurate results, excellent technical signatures, and great turnaround.
Now, you have qualifications, postgraduate qualifications, that is a PhD in environmental health and also an MSc in microbiology. I'm just wondering that, are these qualifications not different? Are they similar? If I'm a young person and I am doing maybe a diploma in environmental health, or I am doing a qualification in microbiology, how did you combine these two qualifications at postgraduate level? Can you please explain to young people, maybe like me, who may not understand, how did microbiology and environmental health emerge together?
Yeah, I think it's in a way the same thing. Environmental health. There are different types of subjects you can study in environmental health. So microbiology and environmental health is more or less the same thing. Yeah, I do think my PhD was based on the categorization of culturable and non-culturable bioaerosols in a fruit juice manufacturing facility. So there was still a lot of microbiology in my thesis. Yeah, I think you must do what you love. I loved microbiology from the beginning. So my PhD was also in microbiology. And I must say, I'm fortunate to publish some of my findings as a chapter in a book about sampling in the food industry. So from the beginning, I just knew it was going to be microbiology in the food industry.
And Dr. Theisinger, now for someone then who is at high school, you say that you love what you are doing, and you knew from the beginning that microbiology was going to be a career path that you would follow. Now, there are many young people who are confused in terms of which career path that they may follow after grade 12. But after listening to you, after this interview, they might just say, maybe this is a career path for me. So what are the key requirements that a young person, let's say the one who is still at high school, still deciding that I want to follow in the footsteps of Dr. Shirleen Theisinger and operate in that space? What are the key requirements, both professionally and academically, that a young person need to cultivate in themselves before they can apply to a university for a qualification in microbiology or environmental health, and that will make them successful then after graduating?
Yeah, sure. This is a more difficult question. Can't we keep maybe to the science? Um, yeah, My advice firstly would be make really sure you study what you want to become one day. I think that is very important. In any career you choose in life, you will spend a lot of time grinding at work, being the best version of yourself in a professional environment. And I'm not going to joke about it. Microbiologist, to be a microbiologist is hard work and it's long hours. And you spend 90% of your time in a lab. So you must really, really be sure you want to be a microbiologist and you would be happy to spend most of your time in a lab. I think that is the most important thing I would tell anybody that says, listen, I would like to become a microbiologist. Then regarding any career you follow, I think that if you want to grow in the company you are, or if you even want a better work opportunity, you must make sure you are the leader and the best. The reason I'm saying this is
Yes.
when somebody is applying for a position at SMT and it's for a microbiologist position, we sometimes get over 100 to 150 CVs of qualified people. And then it's difficult if you are just one of those CVs. So you need to be, when you get the opportunity, you need to be the best and a good leader. I think Maneo and Fifi, who's going to speak later, you will see they are
Yes.
leaders. They are the best in what they do. Because unfortunately, life is fast and the working environment is sometimes tough. And you only notice the people who are disciplined, the hardest workers, the one with a moral compass, the one who is ethical. That this is the things that matter. You can teach anybody microbiology, but you can't teach them to be the best and the hardest worker. So in short, I've just one sentence of advice. Make sure you have a culture of discipline. If I can sum it up, that would be it.
Now, in terms of schools, high school subjects, what do learners need to know about microbiology and environmental health career paths? Which school subjects they should be good at in high school? And maybe if they are now in grade 12, maybe what are the requirements, if you are aware, Dr. Theisinger, for most tertiary institutions in terms of entry requirements? What symbols maybe they would, the different tertiary institutions or most tertiary institutions will require young people to obtain in order to gain admission at a tertiary institution for a qualification in microbiology or environmental health?
True. I'm not 100% sure about this. And it's been a while since I've been a matric. I don't even think the subject names is the same anymore. But I think when we look at CVs and matric results, it is, for us, it's important. And I think if you want to apply for the university, and especially in a science type of industry, it's very important that you are at least good with mathematics.
Okay.
And you must have at least a B in biology. I don't think chemistry is that important because microbiology is not chemistry. It's more biology focused. So I think those are the two ones that you really need to do well. But then people look, unfortunately, for an overall. You can't have a B in biology and in maths, but don't. You need to have good grades also in Afrikaans or in English and the second language. So yeah, that is what we look at normally.
And now, when it comes to tertiary students who have already chosen environmental health as a career path or microbiology, what would be your piece of advice, Dr. Shirleen, for, let's say, final year students who are considering, which career path to take in this industry. They are wondering, maybe should I be in environmental health or in microbiology? What would be the advice that you would give that person? And especially that you have spent so many years in the industry. What are those insights that you have about the industry that you wish maybe as a new graduate, you mentioned earlier something that I liked, that you were not, keen on adulting after graduating with your first qualifications. There might be some final year students who are also in that, crossroad thinking, should I go and adult, look for work, or should I pursue a postgraduate degree? What are the insights that you want to share with young people at tertiary, especially those who are doing final year, Dr. Theisinger?
Yes, that is also a very good question. I would say as soon as possible, start during your holidays with internships. That is more or less when you have an idea of what's going on in a microbiology lab. Apply for an internship because then you have an idea. Is it environmental? Do I like the food industry more than I like to be in the lab? That type of thing. And that's where relationships are built, the more experience you have in the field that you want to work in, the better it is for you. To put on your CV list and I had an internship at this lab and an internship at this lab already gives you so much more than a guy that just studied the degree. I also think postgraduate is great, but you must really decide why. The why. I think the question, the why, is very important to go on with postgraduate. As I said, for me, it was I wasn't done with university life, but we don't all have that privileges. I think it's important to ask the why, because if you do your honors degree and you apply then, a guy that just did his degree would already have a year's experience. So you would think having a second degree would be a better chance. It's not always the situation. Unfortunately, microbiologists, yes, you can become the quality manager and a technical signature and all those things. That can happen for you. But unfortunately, all of us started in the lab. You need to have lab experience and a lot of lab experience. To become a technical signature for a SANAS accredited lab, you need at least 3 years of knowing each test, each microorganism, knowing what the difference between them are, where they can grow, where they can't grow. Unfortunately, you can't just walk into a company and you have the best university results and say, listen, today I want to become a technical signature. It takes time. It's a privilege to become a technical signature in a company like or accredited lab. So I think for me, if I could get advice to people already studying and want to become microbiologists, take your holidays and make sure you go through a few internships.
That is very good, Dr. Theisinger, because we have seen a lot of young graduates with masters like yourself and on social media during the graduation period in April. And the person has been studying and up until master's level, and they are looking for a job. I think the point that you have mentioned that, if someone who has an undergrad qualification, maybe not only in your industry, Dr. Theisinger, but in mostly all industry, experience does count together, yes, of course, with good university marks. Now, my final question to you, Dr. Theisinger, would be that now you are managing these branches, Bloemfontein, Centurion, and Randburg. How do you make sure that as an entrepreneur now, the communication, the systems are all in place, the communication between the teams in Bloemfontein, in Johannesburg, in Centurion, it's flowing smoothly, and that a client who chooses to use your laboratory in Randburg is satisfied, just like the client who may choose to use a laboratory in Bloemfontein would be satisfied. How do you make sure that are flowing as an entrepreneur? What principles are you applying that have helped you to be so successful? And you have mentioned earlier that you are also planning to open other branches in Cape Town.
Yeah, as I said, the success of SMT is totally a blessing from God. That is the first most. I think everything I do and everybody that's part of SMT understands that it's not my company. It's nobody's company. This is God's company, and I'm blessed to say, while we are busy with God's company, we have so many plans now. Maneo will tell you about it, that we are really focusing on giving food safety back to South Africans and Africans as well.
Okay.
So that is the first thing. The second thing is, as I said, it's the people at SMT. If you have the right type of person working for you, and that person is disciplined, you don't need to focus on the person. You just need to focus on the systems. So I'm going to say it again, is that I have a great team. I really have a great team. In every branch there is people that I would choose over and over again at SMT. And I think that is what maybe makes us different from the others, is the fact that we know what we do. We know what we do matters. And it's about the person, and maybe that's also some advice I can give you. It's really about who you are as a person, which will make you an excellent candidate one day or not.
I think that's an inspirational tone to close this conversation on. Thank you so much, Dr. Theisinger, and your team here in Bloemfontein has been amazing. Maneo will tell you that we felt welcome when we arrived here, and we feel like we are also microbiologists and environmental health practitioners for today only. Be sure we are not taking their jobs. Thank you, Dr. Theisinger.
Yes. It's a pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity, and enjoy the visit in Bloemfontein.
And now, Rising Stars, I get to speak to the lady here who is called a team leader, and she is a laboratory analyst. And she's going to give us details about her job. And her name is Maneo. Maneo, welcome to the Rising Stars I Am an Education Champion podcast.
Thank you for having me.
How are you today?
I am all right. I hope you're also well.
We are excited to be in your establishment. And is it possible for you to just tell me a brief history about this company, SMT Lab, from your knowledge? Just briefly about the company.
I think it's one of my favorite parts of the existing entity, because this one time, my boss, you just interviewed her.
Yes.
She was driving me home, and I asked her why she started this.
Yes.
And she said to me, I just didn't want to be a teacher. And I thought, maybe I should just have a food testing lab. And she didn't have the money. She didn't have the capital. She didn't have much. All she had was a vision. And that vision drove her and actually compelled her to start this lab in a small garage where they used to have it. And out of the small garage, you don't despise the days of small beginnings.
No.
Really, you don't. Because that's how it started. It started in a small garage, and she started running her lab. And this one time, again, I asked her, how did you make it this far? Because it just fascinates me so much how it has grown. And she said to me, Maneo, you don't take for granted the things that God places in your hands. All I had was just one lab, and I gave it my all. And now somehow He's blessing me with so many others. So I think that's how it just started. I hope that answers your question.
That does. And Maneo, I like, when I speak to an MD, it's good because it's a person's vision. But I want to hear the story as well. That if it is embedded from people who are representing the company. Now, Maneo, how did you know that you would like to pursue a career in biotechnology, food at the University of Free State? Were you always, interested in that career path?
It's very funny. I didn't know. The reason I ended up doing food biotechnology is because I have very strict parents.
Okay.
After my matric, I didn't know what I wanted to study. And I wanted to get a gap year.
Oh.
My parents don't understand that. They told me, you're going to school. We will not have an idle mind in our house. You're going back to school. And then I went and my best friend was with me and we're like, what can we study? What can I pick? And she said, just take food biotechnology, man. I'm like, what does it even entail? And while I was busy studying it, I still didn't know. I still didn't understand what I was doing.
Okay.
And miraculously, when I finally got a job here, it only made sense then.
Yeah.
It made sense then. Only then.
So you really did not
chose
know.
me.
It chose you. So would you describe it as a calling? Because we have spoken to someone before who mentioned that their plan A, option A, when they were applying at university was economics. And when they arrived at university, they studied economics, but then decided that after a year, no, LLB is actually a qualification that I would like to pursue. And Ngomisa mentioned that the law was a calling for her because she eventually found herself in spaces where she would be discussing matters of law more than economics. And that's how she knew that this was more of a calling to her than a career. Would you describe that food biotechnology for you is more of a calling than a career?
Initially, I would say it's not my calling because I remember with my first interview with Shirleen, she was actually the first one that interviewed me when I got this job. I told her I'm going to be in your lab for 6 months. 6 months, I'm gone and I'm going to pursue psychology.
Okay.
I told her I'm not passionate about these microorganisms. I don't want to be a microbiologist. I just have a qualification. I want to be a psychologist. And then I realized that my biggest longing in my heart is to see the world healed. I want to see the world healed. And I realize as I work in the lab, although I don't go face to face with the people that we get to serve behind the walls, somehow we're still impacting the world in ways that we will never get to describe. So yes, it is a calling because through food hygiene and healthy food, the world still is healed. So somehow I still feel it is a calling.
How long have you been in this industry, Maneo?
It's been 5 years now.
5 years.
Yes.
So which qualification did you study and did you pursue a postgraduate qualification?
I studied my first degree in food biotechnology. And like I said, I realized I really love interacting. I love people. I am passionate about people. And I ended up taking a second degree in psychology.
Oh.
And then I have my honors in psychology now. And I am yet to see how it's going to unfold because I'm growing in my passion in food biotechnology in the strangest way. And I also love helping people. I love seeing people emotionally taken care of. I'm yet to see how the two worlds are yet to collide.
Maneo, I have been fortunate enough to listen to you conducting an interview on a national radio station. Okay. And I also believe that you have a connection with people because as I was listening to you on that radio station's interview, I felt connected to you. I mean, as a communicator, you want someone who is able to be articulate in a radio interview. And I'm thinking this person might not be a scientist. Now I understand that you have also done psychology. And so I understand when you mentioned that you have that people's skills in you. How was your part-time role working here at SMT to now being a team leader contributed to your growth as a person? Because you are saying, as you just mentioned, that you are growing now in leaps and bounds. And I have just surprised you by telling you that I have listened to you on a radio station. How has that experience been like?
It was a big shift. It was a very big shift. I remember Shirleen called me to my boss. We were having an audit here when we were moving from the small garage to here. And she asked me to come with, and I had never been in an audit before.
Yes.
And I told the auditor that I don't like microorganisms, and she stopped and she said, "You're actually a great microbiologist." And I thought, but she knows I'm leaving. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Moving from being part-time to being full-time was such a big shift for me, because in my head, I was just there for the time being. And
you wanted to be a psychologist.
I still do. I eventually am going to be that. You can have both, but we're yet to find out how. But I feel like moving from being part-time to being full-time, I was thinking about it this morning, that when I was part-time, all I wanted to do was just do the allocated duties,
You did not want to go and
prepare
extra
media.
mile.
No, prepare media. That's all I wanted to do. Because at first, initially, all I did was media. I was just preparing media, and that's all I knew how to do. And then eventually, when I moved from just being a media analyst to being a full-time, I realized if you don't grow in the vision, you're not going to grow as an individual. I moved from understanding clients as external factors to owning the vision, to understanding that the turnaround time matters because people need to eat, food need to be sold. And if you don't contribute, if you don't apply yourself the way you should, if you don't do everything else that's needed to make sure that the results go out at an expected time, you're also sabotaging the clients and you're not even aware of it. So I moved from doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to seeing how I could fill the gaps that were there and no one else was aware of. So that's how I grew from just thinking I'm an employee to seeing how I could partner in the vision to make sure it grows.
Maneo, if I'm a young person watching this podcast, I'm in high school or I'm at university studying, your qualification, can you describe to me an 8 to 5 day activities of a laboratory analyst?
You come in the morning, you make sure, because for you to test food products, there's certain media that is expected to be available, and there's time intervals that need to be there. So you walk in the lab, you make sure there's media, and that is all I've known ever since I came here.
Okay.
And then you will receive samples that will be coming in to be tested.
Okay.
And not just those samples are your concern, your biggest priority, but there's also samples that were tested probably 2 days, 3 days prior to the day you're in. You need to make sure that there's reports that are released to the clients as well. So you come in the lab, you prepare media, you make sure that the samples are received at sample reception and they are intact and they don't have any possible contaminants that could have happened along the transportation. And then you go and make sure that the reports that need to go out are sent and released and they are accurate. Like she said, they need to be accurate.
Yes.
They need to reflect the excellent culture that we have at SMT. And then when you're done, there's processing, analysis. You analyze the products. They are from reception. You make sure that they are weighed. There's different methods for different requirements from clients. And then you move them from being weighed into being pipetted. That's where we really break it down to say, this is how we're going to conclude to say this is a certain number of microorganisms. If they are acceptable, release. If they are not, call back, because you can't send something to Pick and Pay that is out of spec, the specific specs that each client will require. So you are part of that chain. Yeah.
Now, this is interesting, Maneo, and I would like to find out, you speak a lot about clients. Now, we know that a doctor serves people who are sick. Those are the clients. And a teacher serves people who are looking for knowledge. Now, what does a laboratory analyst serve? Who are the clients of a laboratory analyst?
The clients are the suppliers to different retails. They are the retail shops that sell food, that need to make sure that, you know what, the food that we're selling to our clients reach a standard that is expected. And they are not consumers, but producers. Yes, producers that want to sell to suppliers to say, this is what we made. Can you please test for us? Because they expect us to have a specific spec before they can sell it out and outsource it to the people that they want to sell it to. So, yeah.
Now, can the members of the public come to you if I want my food to be tested?
Yes, you may.
You may. Okay.
Yes, you may.
Now, Maneo, in your role as a laboratory analyst and a team leader, there are young people who we interact with at tertiary. They would say, especially during the first few years of working, they would say, oh, I wish Maneo could have told me the difficulties and the challenges of the corporate world. I didn't know. I wish I was told that these are the realities of the job that you are going to be faced with on a daily basis. Can you share with young people, especially those who are at tertiary studying your qualification, about the challenges that you have faced in your role and how you overcome those challenges?
I think it's so easy to be lost in the crowd. Because when you get to varsity, they tell you BSc, it's the it. When you're still in matric, they tell you, do your sciences, just choose your science subjects. That's all you're gonna have. And when you get to the corporate world, you realize your why is so important. I'm a big why person. If you don't know why you're doing something, it's gonna be so easy to be derailed and fall in the pit. You understand? It's not glamorous. It's not fancy to be in the lab. I don't know how it feels to work in a mine, but I'd probably feel like it's the same pressure because there's a lot of, sometimes the sample size can be so high. A client can decide to send 50 samples in that day. And you have to make sure that you process that because you've promised them the turnaround time at a specific time. And you're not going to say, I'm too tired. And when they say, do you work well under pressure? They're not trying to...
During the interview.
Yeah, they're not trying to make you make a restation like you did in the preschool when you were still growing. They want you to know that character is needed. You need to have grit. When the employers ask for your CV, they probably want to see your qualification, but that's not just what they need. Your personality is going to be tested too. Who you are as an individual, to work in a team and to work under pressure and to work, sometimes working with people with different personality traits than you could be a challenge because this is how you do things and certain people want to do things in a certain way and you need to force yourself to, merge in and still find harmony in it. So, yeah.
Now, you mentioned that, thanks to your strict parents who just would not entertain the idea of a gap year. Now, many young people say that one of the reasons they would want a gap year is because there are many reports that first-year students struggle to adapt at tertiary. Some may even choose qualifications that they did not want to choose in the first place, or you find a straight A student who struggles academically and they may drop in terms of marks, and maybe the university or the tertiary qualification may say that maybe you are not cut out for this qualification, change your qualification. what would be your advice? How was your experience at first year?
It was the worst. It was the worst. My first year until my third year, I still didn't know what I was doing. For me to, like I said, I interact with people better. I had to find people that understood better what was happening in there, so they could break it down to layman's terms to make me understand.
Yeah.
I had to find my way to making their understanding become my understanding. And that's how I managed. What works for me might not necessarily work for the next person. But what I always say is, before you go to varsity, there's measures that are in place, like interest tests and a whole lot of things that could be followed for you not to find yourself pursuing a career that you're going to get to your master's and you realize, I'm really not passionate about this, that I'm going to have to start all over again. So don't listen to the crowd. Be a voice of reason within yourself and decide to say, this is what I'm going to pursue. Why do you pursue it? Because if the reason you start is external, when you're far away from the external determination of why you started, you're going to drop out and decide this is not even worth it at all. Yeah.
Obviously, it would be difficult that you find along the way. What are common difficulties that you may find at tertiary Maneo in your experience, and maybe those students and your peers that have experience as well, that you find a common challenge for most young people?
Most of them didn't know their study styles. Well, I was one of those. They didn't know how to study, how to get it right in studying. And some of them don't even know. You don't know that you need to sit with yourself. Going to a lecture period is not enough, because we are all 10 people with different IQs. And how you understand is not necessarily how I understand, and how they understand is not how they understand. And it's so easy for you to compare yourself with everyone else. And like I said, you can easily lose yourself in the crowd. Because I remember in my second year, there was a strike, and I was in the strike, and some old women asked us, why are you striking? They asked me, and I said, why are we striking? People had to come and explain. So if you don't know why you're doing something and you lose yourself in the crowd, it means the reason you started is not even worth it in the end. You understand? So I also think the other challenge could be, I sometimes I wish I could go back and tell my child, like my early year youth self, that you don't have forever adversity. It's actually a privilege. Out here, it's real. It's dog eat dog out here. And if you don't have the right principles and the right character to withstand the pressure, you are not going to stand in the corporate world. You understand? So make the most of the time you have. Study if you should. Go to the library. Do things that help you and better yourself before you come out. Because when you're out, there's no time to catch up here. You just need to get it right there. And when you get here, that's why we have a lot of people that are so depressed right now. They never really got the chance to connect with who they are and understand who they are. And when you get to the outside world, you realize your qualification is not who you are. Your qualification is just a piece of paper that you acquired. But who are you as an individual? Know yourself.
Character, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
My last question, Maneo, would be that young people are interested in pay. How much salary am I going to get? I'm inspired by what Dr. Shirleen Theisinger and Maneo have mentioned throughout this podcast. And I think they are speaking to my career ambitions and aspirations. Now, I'm interested to find out then, what is the starting salary? And for recent graduates who might be asked that question by hiring managers in terms of what are their salary expectations, because like you mentioned that in the working world, some graduates, when they go to the interviews, Dr. Shirleen Theisinger mentioned that you guys get about 150, CVs for just one, position. And you might find that people don't even know the salary expectations, especially if that information is not disclosed. Now, in this podcast, would love to let young people know so that they do not shortchange themselves or otherwise have huge expectations that are not market related in their industries?
I'm probably not going to sound like the most perfect person to ask this question, but I'm going to answer it this way. You come from university, you have zero experience. You think you'll have, because I remember I wanted to get 12,000 when I started.
Yes.
I didn't have zero experience. I had a bit of experience because after I qualified as a food biotechnologist, my older sister forced me to go volunteer at the university. And I told her, they're not paying. And she said, I'll pay you every month. Just go, just get experience. So if you come to a workplace with a mindset of what can I get? The drive of money is the reason many of us find ourselves in positions that we don't even know how to get out of.
Okay.
You come to a workplace and you say, I want 12,000. And another company offers you 15, and you go there and you realize this is not what I dreamt of. It's probably going to sound like, what is this person saying? But what I'm basically saying is, don't go to a workplace expecting to get something. Find out what it is that you can do to grow and improve yourself, to get exposed to much processes in the company that you will grow, and you get to a point where you look back and you say, I have so much experience. So if we're hiring you and you only have your qualification and you're saying you're putting demands, but you don't have experience, we need people that have experience here. We don't have enough time to come and train you, and you're making your demands. That, for me, honestly, it feels like it's not a sign of humility. Be teachable. Allow yourself to take in as much as you can. And when you are ready to receive that much money, you won't even demand it. You will match what you have earned. Respect is not demanded, it's earned. You don't go and say, I want this much and I want this much and I want this much. Allow yourself to evolve and become a better person. And as you become a better person, you will understand it's not even about the money. It's about the love of money is the reason we find ourselves in the wrong places. You understand?
Now, Maneo, if a hiring manager, let's say, even if it's not SMT, in the job advert, did not mention the salary expectation maybe of a lab analyst intern, and now a graduate is asked that question, what are you expecting in terms of salary? What do you suggest their answer should be?
They should first ask themselves what experience they have. If you don't have, that's the thing. We come with high expectations from varsity because I've worked hard. I have these qualifications. We need your qualification. But what do you know? What are you going to do to the company to say, I want to be better? I want to improve. So there's no specific, we differ. I don't think there's a fixed scale. I haven't seen it yet. Well, I haven't started searching. I probably should. It's not a good thing. But when I started, I was just a part-time employee. I was here from 8 to 12, and I would go and pursue my other career that I'm miraculously wondering how it's going to match. But what I'm simply saying is, may it not be about how much I will get. May it be about how much am I going to learn? What am I going to contribute? We have a lot of takers in the world. You want to be one of the people, one of the few that is able to contribute, to say, this is what I'm willing to give. And you'll be shocked how much you will get back. I don't know if I'm making sense. I'm not.
Thank you so much, Maneo, for those closing remarks. And we are hoping that the rising stars watching or listening to this podcast have learned so much, both from Dr. Shirleen Theisinger and Maneo here at SMT. And we are looking forward to joining you once again, profiling another successful individual in another industry next month. Thank you so much. You can ask the questions on all Rising Stars Career Expo social media platforms. I am Thulisa Mangcotywa on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Your future career starts here.